This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the Sony VAIO S. This is the new Ivy Bridge model, and this is the premium version. There's actually 3 levels of VAIO S 13.3 that you can get, and we're going to look at it now. So this is the Sony VAIO S 2012 edition with 3rd generation Intel Ivy Bridge processors and Intel HD 4000 graphics. There's 3 tiers if you purchase an S, and the base model have switchable graphics. You can switch between the Intel HD 4000 graphics, which are pretty capable, so that's not a bad thing if you want to get the maximum battery life when you're on the road. You're still going to have pretty good graphics power there. And you can switch to the NVIDIA GeForce GT 640 LE graphics, which is a Kepler architecture graphics card with 1 gig of dedicated VRAM. Now the base model is called the standard model, and that one starts at $799, and then you can move up to the enhanced model for $999 that has that switchable graphics with the dedicated graphics card on it. It also gets you a little bit faster hard drive. The base model starts with the 320 gig 5400 RPM hard drive, which is pretty small and not obviously as fast as the 7200 RPM hard drive you get in the enhanced model, which is 500 gigs. Now what we have here is the premium edition, otherwise known as the VAIO S13A. This gets you a carbon fiber casing, which is a little bit thinner. It's 0.9 inches versus 0.95 inches for the standard magnesium alloy casing models. And it's a little bit lighter. It's 3.69 pounds versus 3.8 pounds. It also gets you a fingerprint scanner that's right up here. Kind of a strange location, but they couldn't put it between the mouse buttons because there are no mouse buttons. This is a buttonless trackpad. The standard VAIO S13 display is 1366 by 768. They all use TN panels, the 13.3 inch models that is. If you get the premium edition, that moves you up to 1600 by 900 pixels. Again, that's what we have right here. Nice colors, and it's an anti-glare finish, so again, it's great for those of you who work in bright lighting conditions. You're not going to be distracted by glare, and it's not going to throw off your sense of color. The premium model starts at $1,119, and that gets you a 500 gig 7200 RPM hard drive, the switchable dedicated graphics, fingerprint scanner, the carbon fiber casing, and the 1600 by 900 display. So a lot of nice upgrades there for not too much of a price jump from the enhanced model. I would bet that Sony's probably mostly going to sell the standard one because it's so inexpensive at $799, and otherwise people are going to jump on the premium model. The standard and enhanced VAIO are available in a selection of colors. You know, Sony, they always like to jazz it up with some colors. You've got white, you've got black. To me, white looks a little bit plasticky. There's also silver, and there's pink, and it's a pretty vibrant pink. If you get the premium edition, you get the different carbon fiber finishes. So you have black, which is what we have here. That's black carbon fiber. There's gold, because Sony likes gold. And then there's one they call gunmetal. That looks a little bit, it still looks kind of blackish, but it's got like a more brushed look to it. Now there are also 15-inch VAIO S's now. That's new. They killed off the F series, and they're moving basically the F machines into the S series. Now the 15.5-inch VAIO S starts at $849, and that gets you a Core i5 and a 1080p display, which is pretty neat. No matter which version of the 15-inch you get a 1080p display. But again, this is a review of the 13.3, so we'll stick with that one. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the VAIO S series, it's been around for a couple of years. It features Sony's what they call full flat design. It kind of takes its design cues from the latest generation Vaio Z computer, super ultra portable. Very large trackpad here, 13.3-inch display. Backlit keyboard on the premium model. And it's a very nice chiclet keyboard. Very good key spacing and more key travel. This is a little bit thicker, obviously, than something like the Vaio Z. So for those of you who tried out the Vaio Z keyboard and said you liked everything about it but the key travel, this one might be your sweet spot. I find it very easy to type on this, really pleasant. It doesn't have the tactile sensation of the best ThinkPad and Dell keyboards, but I type just as quickly on it nonetheless, so no complaints there. Machine is obviously quite light, and this is in the performance class of ultra portables, even though it's not ungodly expensive, say like the Vaio Z is. It doesn't have a lot of direct competitors. It competes to a certain extent with the Lenovo ThinkPad X230, which is a 12.5-inch Windows portable with full mobile processors. These are not ultrabooks. These do not have ultra low voltage CPUs. That means they have more processing power. And the Sony does one up by offering a higher resolution display and the dedicated graphics option, which is something you can't get in the X230. In a way, though, the price points are quite different. This also competes with Sony's own Vaio Z, and I hope you watch our video review of that notebook. But that one starts at $1599 and goes up quickly to about $2,000 if you want a quad-core i7 CPU. But they have a lot in common. Very portable, very elegant designs, nice backlit keyboards, pretty good displays relative to other notebooks that are on the market right now. And if you configure the VAIO SA, the premium model, with all sorts of options, including SSD drives and all that kind of thing, you can bring that up to $2,000. So if you start to think, well, actually, I want SSD drives and some other high-end options, or you might actually want to consider the VAIO Z. But what does the VAIO S bring to the market that's a little bit different from something like the Z and even Ultrabooks? Well, it has a lot of ports and it has an optical drive. I'll show you here on the side. We have a slot-loading optical drive. The standard is a DVD burner. You can also get one that plays Blu-rays and one that burns Blu-rays too, depending on how much more you want to spend. You go about $100 up or so, you can get the Blu-ray drive. And on the other side, we have all of our ports all tied in together. You can see we have two USB 3.0 ports. We have one USB with charging capability, USB 2.0 port with charging capability. We've got gigabit Ethernet here, that's your charging port. HDMI full-size, VGA port, and SD and memory stick duo slots as well. So definitely more ports and an optical drive that sets it apart from the Ultrabook crowd. And you know, again, if you're looking at something like the Enhanced or even the Premium, you're still looking at around that $1,000 to $1,100 price point that you'll see on Ultrabooks, and you're getting that much more. Obviously, this is thicker. Ironically, it's really just a teeny bit heavier than Sony's own VAIO T Ultrabook, which is not one of the lightest Ultrabooks, I'll grant you. The lighter Ultrabooks are right around 3 pounds versus 3.69 pounds. And of course, most Ultrabooks, the ones that are around $1,000, do have SSD drive standard, so that's one up there. In terms of footprint, though, it really is the same as an Ultrabook. If you see this lined up with several Ultrabooks in the store, you wouldn't know that this is not an Ultrabook until you notice the thickness difference. And now for comparison, we have the VAIO S13 right here, and we have the VAIO Z right next to it. So you can see similar footprint. Really, they are just about the same size when they're opened up. If you look at the difference in screen, though, it's a little bit hard probably to see that on video, but the VAIO Z has a 1920 by 1080 display, which certainly is obviously very nice, high resolution for a 13.1-inch machine, but it has a nicer panel. They claim almost full coverage of the Adobe RGB color gamut, and it pops more. There's more warmth here. You can see the highlights popping out. Looks really warm and natural, inviting looking. That's not a bad display there on the VAIO S. That's better than most notebook computers on the market, certainly. But this guy, certainly, you do get what you pay for. The VAIO Z has that fantastic display. But anyway, that's how they look together. And if we close them, you can see how similar the design language is here. We're just talking a difference in thickness. The VAIO Z is about 0.66 inches versus 0.9 inches. So we're talking about, if you chop the lid off of the VAIO S, they would be the same thickness. They're not super far apart. And again, you've got that carbon fiber top and the VAIO logo, what Sony calls the full flat design. They are very flat. They don't do that Apple-like taper, and Sony does not copy Apple. So there you have it. And yes, we will be doing a smackdown of these two really cool notebooks from Sony. So if you want more detailed information about how they compare, hold on for our smackdown that's coming soon. And now we have it here with the Lenovo ThinkPad X230, and they're both obviously small footprint machines. The Lenovo ThinkPad X230 is a 12.5-inch display, so a little bit smaller, 1366 by 768 resolution there. And from the front, they look about similar thickness. That's because there's a bit of a taper on the ThinkPad. If we reverse it the other way around, it'll look more noticeably thicker. The ThinkPad, not one of your skinny notebooks. However, it is built like a tank. And for those of you who are trying to decide between these two machines, we'll probably have a smackdown of these two guys too, so you can see all the details of the differences between them. So taking a closer look at the machine itself, the casing, you can see, again, nice carbon fiber here. Because this is a premium edition, the VAIO logo is in gold rather than silver. Certainly a nice looking machine. For those of you who want a pretty looking computer, well, this is definitely it. And the interesting, again, Sony full flat kind of design thing right here, because this is a little bit thicker compared to the VAIO Z, they add some bevels over here. The screen is inset a little bit, so it makes it easier to pick it up when you need to. Nice sturdy hinge on it. But interesting angles here. It just kind of makes it cool to look at. And as we take a look at the back, you can see here's the fairly robust hinge, and it's kind of shiny black. Almost like a smoky gunmetal shiny black thing. And there's your copper heatsink here under the exhaust fan area. More interesting bevels. Good looking machine. And here on the bottom, well, it looks like your average notebook, doesn't it? And that's a good thing, because for these machines that are, relatively speaking, fairly miniaturized, often, you know how it is, the components get sealed inside, like Apple is sealing inside the batteries for all of their Macs these days. Well, with this guy right here, there's two screws right here, and then this whole panel slides off very easily, and then you have access to the RAM slot right here. Here's your hard drive under this area, and then the battery. So it's not the kind of thing where you release a latch and slide the battery out, but you can get to it. And this has a 4400 milliamp battery that Sony claims is good for up to almost 7 hours of use. And there's also an optional sheet battery, just like there is for the VAIO Z, if you want to double your run times. Now, if you want to see what's inside here, you'll take a look at our full review on mobiletechreview.com, and you can see pictures with this taken off. So since we're talking about RAM and hard drive, let's talk about the internals a little bit. There's 4 gigs of RAM, DDR3, 1333 megahertz soldered onto the motherboard, and there's one standard SO DIMM slot that uses normal DDR3, 1333 megahertz notebook RAM. And it's pretty easy to upgrade it yourself. You can go up to 12 gigs. That's because right now the biggest stick you can get is an 8 gig stick, so if you put that in the slot plus the 4 gigs on the motherboard, you're up to 12 gigs. More than enough memory, certainly, for what most of us are doing. On our particular model, the hard drive is a 640 gig 7200 RPM hard drive. Good performance on that. And you can order it with Sony's custom SSD drives. Those are in a dual RAID configuration, sort of like what they do with the Z. Now that's interesting, because this has a normal SATA connector inside, just regular standard notebook hard drive connector, but they're still doing custom drives for that, and it's pretty expensive. I think a lot of you probably will just go with something aftermarket. Samsung's PM830 is a very fast hard drive. There's others out there that use the standard SATA connector for this. One weird thing about Sony is we've got SATA 3 capabilities here with this motherboard. Again, it's the latest generation Intel Ivy Bridge, but for some reason Sony's always running their hard drives at SATA 2. Don't know why that is. Now in terms of processors, as I mentioned, you have full mobile CPUs in here, and none of them are ULV options. And we have the base model, which is the 2.5 gigahertz Intel Core i5 3210M processor. More than enough power to do Photoshop work, to do some development work, and I was actually playing Diablo in speed mode with dedicated graphics, and I was getting between 50 and 75 FIPS at native resolution, and we will have a separate gaming video so you can see that in action, so that works out pretty well. If you want to spend another $50, you can go up a little bit from 2.5 gigahertz to 2.6 gigahertz, still a Core i5, and then there is a Core i7 option that adds $250 to your bill. And that is a 2.9 gigahertz, but that's a dual core, not a quad core. Now, if it was a quad core, like available on the VAIO Z, I would certainly be tempted, because you can get some serious horsepower of a quad core, but the dual core i7 doesn't excite me as much. So if it was my money, well, I'd go with the Core i5 on this one. Again, we've got that NVIDIA GeForce GT 640 MLE graphics. That's 1 gig of DDR RAM. You can, if you custom order it, actually go up to 2 gigs, unless you're running multiple external monitors on this, and that is a challenge, because usually just one port works at a time, VGA or HDMI. I don't see the need now, but if you like to future-proof, well, that is available for another $50 as a custom order option. And one thing that I really love about Sony computers is the switchable graphics button right here. So here we got this little speed versus stamina switch, and that'll switch it between Intel HD 4000 graphics and the dedicated card. Now Sony has been doing this for years, like I said, and it's, in fact, they were one of the first to ever offer switchable graphics, and it's a no-brainer. I wish everybody did this. We looked at the HP Envy. You just have software settings to switch back and forth, or you can change it in your BIOS. When we looked at the Samsung Series 7 Chronos, at first there was no real good control over which graphics card was running. Everybody should have this darn switch right here. And while we're looking at the keyboard, here's the eject button for the optical drive right there in the corner, and you've got your usual lights over here to let you know if your caps lock is on, that kind of thing. Your fingerprint scanner right there again, and then the usual VAIO quick launch buttons. First one that says Assist launches VAIO Care. You can do everything from restore your computer to update your drivers to troubleshoot stuff. Web, well, that'll boot up the computer and launch your web browser, or if it's already booted up, it's got to just launch the web browser. And the VAIO button is assignable to whatever application you like. Power button's right here, obviously lit up in green when it's on, and it's got the little green thing showing over here. Standard F keys with controls for things like your volume, your brightness, all the kind of things that you would expect. We've got our quad of arrow keys here. If you hit the FN key, you get your page up, page down. Shift key, good normal size on both sides. basically your standard normal good keyboard. And the trackpad, well, it's absolutely huge for a 13.3-inch machine. Look at how much of the wrist rest area it takes up. Now the nice thing is I didn't have too much problem with palm rejection issues. The software takes care of that for you, because when you've got this much of a chance of running into onto the trackpad while you're typing, you think you could be in for some trouble and have cursor jumping. I haven't noticed that. Large trackpad makes it good for multi-touch gestures. Synaptics trackpad, and Sony in general does better than a lot of other Windows makers with their multi-touch software, and I found it quite pleasant to use. Obviously it's buttonless, there's no buttons there, but it does move and click. The notebook has stereo speakers with Dolby Home Theater software, or you can run Sony's audio software. Even after fiddling with the sound settings, let me tell you, this is not very thick, full, or rich sound, nor is it really loud. Now, it used to be to say, hey, it's a 13-inch computer, how much space do you have for speakers? We cut it some slack, but we've tested quite a few Ultrabooks that have really rockin' full, loud speakers, so Sony really, with the VAIO Z and the VAIO S, they could stand to pick up their game, and we'll play some media so you can hear what it sounds like. Good news is, headphone out, yeah, sounds great. We also have Intel WiDi here, wireless display, and right down here you can see our little WiDi icon. So that means that you can just, you've got a little WiDi unit hooked up to your TV, you can just stream whatever is on your screen, or you can use the TV as your second display. So you can actually be using your computer and surfing the web and have the second display playing a movie for your family, that kind of thing. And audio out over WiDi is pretty good. Likewise over HDMI is good. Speaking of WiDi, that means it has Intel Wi-Fi 802.11 BGN, that's single band Wi-Fi, and it has Bluetooth 4.0. And of course that gigabit wired Ethernet as well. There is no 3G option, at least not in the United States, at least not right now. But you can obviously use USB 3G or 4G dongles with this, or MiFi's, your mobile phone with the hotspot feature too, if you need to get data anywhere when you're on the road. We have a 720p webcam up here with Sony's Exmor sensor, particularly good at low light, so that means if you're sitting in your average and not super bright living room, people will actually know what you look like and they won't think you look pale as a ghost. Now, as I mentioned, Sony's using TN panels on the VAIO S and on the VAIO Z. They do have an IPS panel on the S15.5, but not here. The good news is really nice colors, good color gamut, good color saturation. The Netflix red does indeed look red. And the matte covering really does help a lot improve display quality, but because it is a TN panel, if you move it back and forth, you'll notice that you go in and out of that sweet spot where colors and contrast look the best. Now, the sweet spot isn't ultra narrow like we've seen, particularly on some Ultrabooks and some mid-priced notebooks. You have some leeway. I'm sitting off to the side of it right now, and I can still see the display clearly. So again, it's a premium notebook. You get better than average display, you get higher than average resolution, but it's obviously not up to the caliber of something like the Sony VAIO Z with its really, really excellent 1080p panel, which is still TN, but really great colors. These days, TN versus IPS doesn't mean as much, honestly. IPS gets you that wider viewing angle thing, but you don't always get great color gamut, for example. So all in all, it's a premium display, but it's not the best on the market. For those of you who are really picky, who are graphic designers and who want the ultimate, most best display, well, you're still looking at the VAIO Z there or a different notebook. But good enough for most of us, including those of us who work with Photoshop daily, certainly. Nice color accuracy, good contrast, easy on the eyes. Now right now we are of course running at 1600 by 900 resolution, and I've got the DPI setting for Windows up to 125% to make it a little bit easier on my eyes, so that's why these things look a little bit larger than you might expect. But I also noticed that fonts, desktop fonts, look a little bit sharper, not just because, gee, it's too teeny to read, so it just looks more rounded, more good, the text, when you're running at 125 DPI. Now the browser here, we're just running at regular 100% zoom, and you can see what it looks like. It's still very readable. And it gives you enough room that you really could go side by side. You could have web page here, and you could have a Word document and actually see some of each of them. Or you could manage to fit two Word documents side by side. It's more than capable enough to handle Adobe Flash, Netflix, Crackle, all sorts of streaming services, and any kind of local playback you've got, up to 1080p level of content if you want to pipe that out to your HD TV or HDMI monitor and that kind of thing. And now here's a 1080p MPEG-4 trailer, high profile, so you can see how it plays. It's playing just fine. And you hear the speakers are, well, it's not the most impressive thing you've ever heard. Now let's see where our volume is at. We're going up to just about max volume there, and that's what it sounds like. It's not very full, it's not very rich. You can hear it, but that's about as much as I'm going to say. Looks nice, though, good colors. Nice saturation, no ghosting, and the black levels are quite good on the display as well, too. I'm not seeing any of that shift out to white or gray, so definitely good. In terms of benchmarks, our Core i5 2.5 gigahertz model did quite well. It scored 775 on PC Mark Vantage, and on 3D Mark Vantage it did 5600, which is pretty good considering, again, it's the Core i5, and the GT640 LE is your mid-range graphics card. Again, it's good enough to play some games, and we're going to have a separate video for that, but I had absolutely no problem playing with really nice high FIPS, as long as I had anti-aliasing off in Diablo 3. And we're going to test out Skyrim and Max Payne and a couple other games, and I think you'll find that it's up to gaming. Certainly it's great for helping out if you're working with Photoshop or if you're doing some video editing, and this also comes with Sony Vegas Platinum, which is a pretty nice video editing package. I know some of you actually just like that and use that even if you don't own a Sony computer, and you get SoundForge sound editing software on here as well. So an all-around capable performer that's certainly many times faster than Ultrabook. Ultrabooks, they're awesome for your everyday Word, Excel, email, web browsing, and a little light photo editing, that kind of thing. But if you need to do some serious video editing, if you're working with Photoshop day in, day out, large RAW files, that kind of thing, or obviously if you want to play games and have a dedicated GPU, yet have something portable, it's really hard to beat. Now, in my recent Vaio Z 3rd generation, that's the Z3 review, I said this is a love story. That's why I opened up that written review. And let me tell you, this is a love affair right here, because for more weight, if you can tolerate that pound extra, you get a lot of stuff. You get that dedicated graphics, you get that built-in optical drive, which, let's face it, if you're into playing games, you're looking for that dedicated graphics that it also has. You also need an optical drive to install some of these games, don't you? You might want to burn some discs, that kind of thing. Lots of ports to choose from here, though the Vaio Z really manages to hold pretty well when it comes to ports. And you're looking at about the same battery life, which is also remarkable. Now, of course, I mean, if you're going to be running this on Intel HD 4000 graphics, because if you want good battery life, you're going to want to stick with that integrated graphics. So you're still going to get good graphics performance there. And I've been getting over 6 hours on a charge, and that's with my brightness set at 60% and Wi-Fi on, internet connection active. So pretty impressive there. I'm sure that trying really hard, you could probably squeeze out 6.5 hours, maybe even 7 on this. Now if you're running on dedicated graphics, expect about 30% shorter run times, and if you're going to be playing games on this, you probably want to plug it in because, well, that's really going to kill your battery life. But still, it's even portable for that, so you're on the airplane, you just want to play for 45 minutes or an hour. It can certainly do that very easily. If you're going to be playing games, you should be able to get 3.5 hours out of this playing the most demanding games, if not more. One nice thing also is that Sony has really improved their thermals. Both the Vaio S and the Vaio Z got to be kind of noisy, and some people just couldn't take the vacuum cleaner thing going on there when they were playing games and doing things that really required a lot of cooling. Much, much cooler. Definite improvement there, so I can tell you that this one is just not going to howl endlessly at you. Now, if you're playing Diablo 3 for 3 hours, of course you're going to hear the fan. I mean, when you're playing demanding games, that's going to happen, but all in all, it's running cool. The CPUs are running about 50 degrees centigrade when gaming, which is just fine. 105 is the ceiling on those, and not painfully hot to the touch at any point on the notebook, and much quieter. And for those of you who want to eke out even more performance, of course you can throw your own SSD drive in there for some pretty impressive performance improvements too. And honestly, because PC Mark Vantage, all the PC Mark apps really bias heavily toward the fast SSD drive, you probably get easily 3,000 more on a benchmark, maybe even more, just by upgrading to an SSD drive of your own after the fact. So that's the Sony VAIO S 13-inch. This is the SA model, which is the premium model. Definitely a notebook that I can recommend. The price is really very reasonable for what you get, and the portability is just amazing. For something that is under 4 pounds, to have good processing power, dedicated graphics, a very nice 1600 by 900 pixel display, backlit keyboard, it's good stuff. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website for the full review of the Sony VAIO S 13. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.